First contact. Dr. Sarah Chen stood at the edge of the Antarctic Research Station's observation deck, her breath forming crystals in the -40-degree air. The aurora australis painted the sky in sheets of green and purple, but her attention was fixed on something else entirely. 3 kilometers below the ice, her team had discovered what could only be described as impossible: a perfect sphere of unknown material, approximately 20 meters in diameter, emanating a faint but steady energy signature. The drilling team's ready, Marcus Rodriguez called from behind her. The young physicist had barely slept in the past 72 hours, but excitement kept him going. "They're waiting for your final authorization." Sarah nodded, pulling her thermal gear tighter around her shoulders. After 6 months of careful excavation, they were finally ready to make contact with whatever lay beneath the ice. The international scientific community had been in an uproar since the discovery, with theories ranging from natural phenomena to ancient Earth civilizations. Nobody had seriously considered extraterrestrial origins until now. "Tell them to proceed with the final approach," she said, turning to face her colleague. "But maintain the safety protocols we established. Any sign of radiation spikes or structural instability, they pull back immediately." The next 4 hours passed in a blur of activity. Sarah watched through remote cameras as the specialized drilling equipment, designed specifically for this operation, carefully cleared the final meters of ice. The sphere's surface began to emerge, smooth and midnight black, reflecting the drilling lights like polished obsidian. "Energy readings are increasing," Dr. Yuki Tanaka reported from her station, her voice tense with concentration. "But the pattern remains stable. Whatever it is, it's responding to our presence." The moment the drilling team cleared enough space to examine the sphere's surface directly, everything changed. A series of geometric patterns illuminated across its surface, pulsing with a soft blue light. Before anyone could react, a beam of energy shot upward through the ice shaft, continuing into the sky above the research station. "Multiple contacts," Marcus shouted, his eyes fixed on the radar display. "Objects entering Earth's atmosphere. They're decelerating." Sarah rushed back to the observation deck, her heart pounding. Through the crystal-clear polar air she could see them. 5 vessels of impossible grace, descending through the aurora like falling stars. They were long and sleek, their hulls shimmering with the same otherworldly material as the sphere below. The largest of the vessels took position directly above the research station, while the others formed a perfect pentagon in the sky around it. A voice, unlike anything Sarah had ever heard, filled the station's communication system. It spoke in perfect English, though with an accent that seemed to shift between all known human languages. "Children of Earth," the voice said, "you have found our beacon. We have watched your progress with great interest. You are unique among all the species we have encountered. While others required our guidance to advance, you have climbed the ladder of civilization through your own determination and ingenuity. Now, it is time for your next step." Through the observation window, Sarah watched as a smaller craft descended from the largest vessel. It was happening. Humanity's first official contact with an alien civilization. But unlike every science fiction story she'd read, they weren't here to conquer or enlighten. They were here because humanity had accomplished something remarkable. We had made it this far on our own. "Dr. Chen," the voice continued, somehow knowing her name and role, "your team has been chosen as humanity's first representatives. We have much to discuss about your species' unique path to the stars." As the landing craft touched down outside the station, Sarah realized that every scientific paper she'd ever written, every theory she'd developed, was about to become obsolete. But that didn't frighten her. It thrilled her. Humanity had always faced the unknown with courage and curiosity, and today would be no different. "Marcus," she said, straightening her back and squaring her shoulders, "let's go greet our guests. It seems we have quite a story to tell them about how humanity does things." The airlock cycle began its familiar hum as Sarah and her team prepared to make history. Through the reinforced windows, She could see figures emerging from the landed craft, tall, elegant beings that moved with liquid grace. They were about to learn that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in any technology they'd developed or resources they'd mastered, but in their unrelenting drive to push boundaries and explore the unknown. The first chapter of humanity's greatest adventure was about to begin. The trial. The Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Council hung suspended in space like a crystalline flower, its transparent petals refracting starlight in impossible patterns. 3 months had passed since first contact, and now Dr. Sarah Chen found herself standing before representatives of over 500 spacefaring civilizations. Each delegation occupied their own floating platform, creating a three-dimensional amphitheater around the central speaking position where she stood. The question before us, announced High Arbitrator Xylix, their bioluminescent form pulsing with formal colors, is whether humanity is prepared for full integration into galactic society without having received the traditional guidance package. Never before has a species achieved spacefaring status through purely independent means. Sarah felt the weight of thousands of alien eyes upon her. The past months had been a crash course in xenobiology and galactic politics, but nothing could have prepared her for this moment. She glanced at Marcus, who stood with the rest of Earth's small delegation on their assigned platform. He gave her an encouraging nod. Distinguished members of the Council, Sarah began, her voice carried and translated by the hall's advanced acoustics. We understand your concerns, but I would argue that humanity's independent development is not a weakness to be remedied, but rather our greatest strength. A murmur rippled through the assembly. The Artaxians, with their crystalline bodies, chimed in disagreement. The Vor Collective's 1,000-strong neural network buzzed with skepticism, but Sarah continued, her confidence growing. Consider the Horizon Project, she said, activating the holographic display. Images of Earth's first antimatter containment facility appeared in the center of the hall. When faced with the challenge of stable antimatter storage, instead of following established principles, we approached the problem from an entirely new angle. Our solution, while unconventional, achieved 40% greater efficiency than current galactic standards. The Vor Collective's buzz shifted to a higher frequency, interest rather than skepticism. Sarah pressed her advantage. But perhaps more importantly, we offer something unique to galactic civilization, a fresh perspective. We solved problems in ways you never considered because we never knew they were supposed to be impossible. Our art, our music, our literature, they're born from a wholly independent cultural evolution. We can contribute not just technology, but new ways of thinking. High Arbitrator Xylix's colors shifted to deep purple, contemplation. You speak of advantages, Dr. Chen, but what of the risks? Without proper guidance, how can we be certain humanity won't repeat the mistakes that led to the great collapse of the precursor civilizations? Sarah took a deep breath. This was the crucial moment. With respect, Arbitrator, it's precisely because we developed independently that we're less likely to repeat those mistakes. We've learned our lessons through trial and error, built our wisdom through experience rather than instruction. Our history is filled with examples of overcoming our own near catastrophes, each time emerging stronger and more determined. She gestured to the historical timeline now floating before the assembly. When we faced environmental crisis, we developed fusion power and atmospheric restoration technology. When overcrowding threatened our cities, we created revolutionary urban farming techniques. Each challenge forced us to innovate, to adapt, to grow. We don't just know the solutions, we understand why they're necessary. A new voice joined the discussion. Ambassador Crix of the Meridian Concordat, their tentacles weaving complex patterns of support, spoke up. I have studied Earth's historical records extensively. Their artistic achievements alone suggest a unique cognitive architecture. Perhaps this is an opportunity we cannot afford to ignore. The next several hours saw intense debate among the council members. Sarah presented case after case of human innovation, from the Internet's distributed information network to the development of quantum computing through biological interfaces. With each example, more delegates began showing signs of approval. Finally, High Arbitrator Zilix raised their primary appendages for silence. Their body now pulsed with the gold and silver colors of decision. "The Council has deliberated," they announced. "Humanity's petition for full integration into galactic society will be granted, not despite their independent development, but because of it. Furthermore, we propose the establishment of a new division within the Council, the Innovation Institute, to be jointly led by human and alien researchers, dedicated to exploring unconventional approaches to galactic challenges." As celebrations erupted throughout the hall, Sarah caught Marcus's eye again. They both knew this was just the beginning. Humanity had earned its place among the stars, not by following an established path, but by blazing their own trail. Now they would help guide the galaxy toward a future that none of its member species could have imagined alone. The real work was about to begin. Hidden strength. The emergency alert pierced through the Innovation Institute's quantum communications network with an urgency that made Sarah's teeth ache. 6 months into humanity's integration with galactic society, and already they faced a crisis that threatened not just Earth, but dozens of civilizations across the galaxy. "The void storms are expanding exponentially," Marcus reported, his holographic form flickering as he transmitted from the Artaxian homeworld. 3 star systems have already gone dark. The Vor Collective's predictive matrices show at least 30 more will be affected within the standard month. Sarah studied the 3-dimensional map floating before her. The void storms, massive regions of space where the fundamental forces of physics began to break down, had appeared without warning. Traditional galactic science had no explanation for their formation and no solution for their containment. "Show me the pattern analysis again," she requested, her mind racing. The map zoomed in, displaying the intricate web of calculations that tracked the storm's expansion. Something about it seemed familiar, tugging at her memory. "Dr. Chen," High Arbitrator Zilix's voice joined the conference, their usual steady tones carrying an edge of fear. "The Council awaits your report. Has the Innovation Institute made any progress?" Sarah was about to give another negative update when she saw it. The pattern. It wasn't in the storms themselves, but in the spaces between them. "Marcus," she said, her excitement building, "remember that paper we read about cellular automata? The one from Earth's 20th century?" Marcus's hologram leaned forward, eyes widening as he followed her thought process. "Conway's game of life. But that's just a simple mathematical recreation." "That began as a recreation, but led to breakthroughs in understanding complex systems," Sarah finished. "The void storms aren't random. They're following rules, just like cellular automata. We've been looking at this all wrong. We're not seeing chaos, we're seeing emergence." The next hours were a blur of activity as Sarah coordinated with teams across the galaxy. Human mathematicians and programmers worked alongside alien scientists, applying principles from Earth's early computer science to the most advanced physics in the galaxy. The solution began to take shape. If the void storms followed rules like cellular automata, they could be contained by creating the right boundary conditions. "It's elegant," Ambassador Crix observed, their tentacles moving in patterns of admiration. "Using primitive mathematical concepts to solve a quantum-level crisis, but the implementation will require precise coordination across vast distances. The energy requirements alone." "We can handle that," Sarah interrupted, a plan forming. "The human internet was built on the principle of distributed computing. We can adapt that concept, link every quantum computer in the affected regions into a single network. Each node will maintain its section of the boundary field." "Impossible," one of the Artaxian scientists chimed. "The processing requirements would overwhelm any known system." "Then we'll build a new one," Marcus said, catching Sarah's enthusiasm. "Remember how we solved the antimatter containment problem? Sometimes the best solution is to change the rules of the game." Over the next 3 weeks, as the void storms continued their expansion, the greatest engineering project in galactic history took shape. guided by human networking principles, but built with alien quantum technology. A vast web of interconnected systems spread across the threatened regions of space. Each node was simple, following basic rules, but together they created something far greater than the sum of their parts. When the system finally activated, Sarah held her breath along with countless beings across the galaxy. The void storms raged against the boundary fields, but the distributed network held. Slowly, inexorably, the storms began to contract, their energy dissipating harmlessly into subspace. "I don't understand," High Arbitrator Zilix said later, during the celebration that followed. "Your species had no experience with void storms, no advanced quantum physics. How did you know this would work?" Sarah smiled, thinking of all the human history that had led to this moment. "We didn't know, but we've learned that sometimes the biggest breakthroughs come from looking at problems from a completely different angle. Our strength isn't in having all the answers, it's in knowing how to find them." The crisis had passed, but its impact would resonate through galactic society for generations to come. Humanity had proved that their unique perspective wasn't just valuable, it was vital. The Innovation Institute's waiting list for human collaborators grew exponentially, and research teams across the galaxy began incorporating Earth's primitive concepts into their most advanced projects. As Sarah looked out at the stars from the Institute's observation deck, she couldn't help but wonder what other solutions might be hiding in humanity's past, waiting to solve the galaxy's future problems. The journey of discovery was just beginning. The revolution. The halls of the Innovation Institute had changed drastically in the year since the Void Storm crisis, where once there had been rigid order and hierarchical structure, now there was organized chaos. Alien scientists debated with human artists in open forums. Engineering teams mixed species and disciplines freely, following Earth's startup culture model. Traditional protocols were being replaced by what the aliens had started calling human-style innovation. Sarah watched from her office as a group of Artaxian crystal beings engaged in what they called brainstorming, a concept they had enthusiastically adopted from Earth. Their crystalline forms pulsed with rapid-fire colors as they bounced ideas off each other, uninhibited by their society's usual formal thought patterns. "The Council is concerned," Marcus said, stepping into her office. He had just returned from another diplomatic mission, and his expression was troubled. "The changes are spreading faster than anyone anticipated. It's not just scientific methodology anymore. Human culture is influencing everything." Sarah nodded, pulling up a holographic display of recent developments across the galaxy. "Look at this," she said, highlighting various points of light. 15 different species have adopted versions of Earth's democratic systems. The Vor Collective has fragmented into independent neural networks, inspired by human individuality. Even the Meridian Concordat is experimenting with free market economics. "That's exactly what worries them," Marcus replied. "Some of the older civilizations are calling it cultural contamination. They're saying we're destabilizing thousands of years of established order." Before Sarah could respond, an alert flashed across her display. Ambassador Crix's familiar form shimmered into existence in the office's holographic projection space, their tentacles moving in patterns of urgent concern. "Dr. Chen, we have a situation," Crix said. "The hegemony of fixed stars has called for an emergency session of the Council. They're demanding that human influence be contained and regulated. They claim our chaos threatens the stability of galactic civilization." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. The hegemony was one of the oldest and most powerful civilizations in known space. Their support had been crucial in humanity's initial acceptance into galactic society. Losing that support could be catastrophic. "When is the session?" she asked, already pulling up data on the hegemony's social and political structure. "In 6 standard hours," Crix replied. "But this isn't just about politics, Sarah. Something deeper is happening. The old power structures are crumbling, and not everyone is ready for what's replacing them." Sarah thought for a moment, then smiled. "Maybe that's exactly what we need to address. Marcus, remember what happened when the internet first spread across Earth. The way it disrupted traditional power structures, but ultimately led to greater innovation and connection. Marcus's eyes widened as he caught her meaning. You want to use Earth's own history of dealing with rapid technological and social change as a model for managing this transition. Not managing, embracing. Sarah corrected. The hegemony sees chaos, but what we're really seeing is evolution. Every species in the galaxy has the capacity for innovation and creativity. We just showed them it was possible to break free of predetermined paths. The council chamber was packed when Sarah took the speaking position 6 hours later. The hegemony's representatives loomed on their platform, their ancient cybernetic forms radiating disapproval. But Sarah noticed something else too. Hundreds of younger aliens from various species scattered throughout the chamber, their postures and expressions showing clear support for Earth's influence. Distinguished members of the council, Sarah began, we stand at a crossroads. The hegemony speaks of chaos and contamination, but I ask you to look deeper. What they call chaos, we call growth. What they see as contamination, we recognize as cross-pollination of ideas. She gestured, and the chamber filled with images from Earth's history. My own civilization has faced similar transitions countless times. The invention of writing, the Industrial Revolution, the digital age, each brought disruption, yes, but also unprecedented advancement. We learned that the key to surviving such changes isn't to resist them, but to guide them with wisdom while embracing their potential. The chamber erupted in discussion, but Sarah wasn't finished. The hegemony fears we're destroying the old order. But look around you. We're not destroying anything. We're adding to it, enriching it. Every species that has adopted Earth practices has done so by choice, adapting them to their own needs and cultures. This isn't contamination. It's collaboration on a galactic scale. As she spoke, more and more council members began showing signs of agreement. Even some of the hegemony's allies seemed swayed by her words. The revolution wasn't just happening in laboratories and government chambers. It was occurring in the hearts and minds of individuals across the galaxy. The old order wasn't ending. It was evolving, becoming something greater than the sum of its parts. And humanity, the species that had climbed to the stars on their own, was helping to light the way. New Dawn. 5 years after humanity's first contact with galactic civilization, the Innovation Institute had become unrecognizable from its original form. What had begun as a simple research facility had evolved into the heart of a galactic renaissance. Sarah stood in the newly completed Grand Atrium, watching species from across the galaxy mingle freely, sharing ideas and dreams in ways that would have been unthinkable just a few years ago. Remember when we thought finding that sphere under the ice was the biggest discovery we ever make? Marcus asked, joining her at the observation window. Below them, a group of young hegemony citizens who had broken away from their conservative elders were collaborating with human artists on a new form of four-dimensional sculpture. We had no idea what we were starting, Sarah replied, smiling as she watched a Vor collective node teaching human children about quantum mathematics through interactive holograms. But I don't think anyone did, not even the curators. The mention of the mysterious curators brought a thoughtful silence. In the years since first contact, humanity had learned more about these ancient beings who had guided so many civilizations to the stars. But their greatest mystery remained. Why had they left Earth to develop on its own? High Arbitrator Xylix, who had become one of humanity's strongest allies, had a theory. Perhaps, they had once said, their colors shifting in contemplation, they saw in your species something that needed to grow wild and free, unconfined by predetermined paths. The results were undeniable. The human approach to problem solving, combining creativity, determination, and a willingness to challenge established assumptions, had sparked a transformation throughout galactic society. But it wasn't just humanity changing the galaxy. The exchange went both ways. Earth itself had been transformed. Cities now floated on quantum fields, Disease was becoming a memory thanks to alien medical technology, and the first human-designed fold ships were pushing the boundaries of known space. Yet somehow, humanity had managed to maintain its essential character, its curiosity, its drive to explore, its ability to dream. Dr. Chen, a young Artaxian researcher, called out, hurrying across the atrium. The results from the dimensional barrier experiments are in. The human intuitive approach, combined with our crystalline computing. We've done it. We found a way to safely explore parallel universes. Sarah exchanged a knowing look with Marcus. Another breakthrough, another boundary pushed back. But more importantly, it was achieved through true collaboration, combining the best aspects of multiple civilizations. There's something else, the researcher continued, their crystalline form vibrating with excitement. We found evidence, patterns in the dimensional barriers. We think we might have detected traces of the curators themselves. The news spread through the Institute like wildfire. Within hours, research teams across the galaxy were analyzing the data. The prospect of finally understanding the beings who had shaped so many civilizations was tantalizing. But Sarah noticed something interesting. No one was waiting for the curators to provide answers. Instead, species were working together, applying their combined knowledge and creativity to solve the mystery. That evening, as the Institute's artificial sun set in a spectacular display of engineered beauty, Sarah found herself back in her office, looking at an old photo from the Antarctic Research Station. The sphere that had started everything was now a museum piece, visited by millions from across the galaxy. A message alert chimed softly. It was from the Council. They had unanimously approved the creation of the first intergalactic exploration fleet. It would be crewed by members of every willing species, led jointly by human and alien commanders. Their mission: to push beyond known space, to seek out new civilizations, and to share the gift of collaborative innovation that humanity had helped unlock. We finally figured it out, Marcus said, reading the announcement over her shoulder. The curators didn't leave us alone because we were different. They left us alone because they knew that true progress comes from finding your own path, and then sharing it with others. Sarah nodded, watching the stars through her window. Somewhere out there, the curators might be watching, perhaps pleased that their experiment had yielded something unprecedented. A galactic civilization that had learned to combine the stability of age-old wisdom with the dynamic energy of human innovation. The universe was vast, full of mysteries waiting to be solved and wonders waiting to be discovered. But humanity would not face these challenges alone. They had found their place among the stars not by following in the footsteps of others, but by blazing their own trail. And in doing so, they had helped the galaxy remember how to blaze new trails of its own. As the first ships of the new exploration fleet prepared for launch, Sarah knew that this wasn't an ending, but a beginning. The greatest adventure in human history was just getting started, and this time, all of galactic civilization would discover the future together.